So in our first video, I showed you how to get started by registering. So now we are registered. So we're still looking at our Canvas classroom. So let's show you a few things in your Canvas classroom that are really important. So a few things are just understanding the lab, my math lab, my stat lab. There's a module in here to help you with understanding it. Everything from a getting started handout, how do you find your assignments, completing study plans, how to accept help and how to get it through MyLab, how to take a test. So that's really important. So I would actually say now that you've registered, the next most important thing to do is to go ahead and understand what's going on in this particular aspect of your online learning class. So go through this module, feel like you understand it confidently. If you have any questions, of course, ask your instructor. So that's really important. Another thing I brought up earlier in the first video was registering and how you're allowed 14 days of access. This is what happens when you do that. You actually get in and it tells you you have 14 days of access. Please pay before a certain date, which is 14 days later, to stay in the course. So it's really, really important to do that. But once you have, you do actually have access. So another great thing for you if you're waiting for financial aid or anything of that nature. So you have access, but be sure to convert within those 14 days to not lose your work. So let's go back to Canvas now. It's important to understand that you're going to work within the Canvas modules, but the work will be done in MyLabs. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so let's go to the week 1 area. So it says week 1 assignments in my stat lab. Most important thing you're going to see in here is the very first line, which says all your work must be completed accessing the MyLabs, otherwise you receive a 0. You would have to go to the left course navigation to get to the MyLabs to access your homework, your quizzes, your tests. It's incredibly important, and the only way that you're going to receive credit is by accessing it in the left navigation. One thing I want to bring to your attention that sometimes happens, and it's meant to display more or less of the screen, is you might not see this left navigation. If that happens, this is what you'll see. And you'll say, but geez, where is that left navigation? Just come up to this. This expands the course view. It gives you a little bit more real estate on the screen, which is great for some things, but if you actually need to access the left course navigation, you need to be able to see it. So this gives you more room, but if you need it, be sure to click to access left navigation. So that's the getting started with that. Let's take a look at what the homework, quizzes, and tests area looks like. So now we are in the My Math Lab aspect, and there's a few things you can see. Number 1, we're looking at a showing of all assignments. You can filter this down to show your homework, your quizzes, and tests. So you have the ability to filter it differently. This is a show all. So let's click on homework. So now I'm looking at all my homework. One thing that I want to bring to your attention is the due date. Now this is based on the current session we happen to be in, where the assignment is due on the 11th, which happens to be the last day of class. You will see this in your course as well. Your due date for your homework is the final day of class. Now please refer to your syllabus, any comments from your instructor. You want to do your homework because it is part of your grade, but the final due assignment date is your last day of class. It does not mean I want you to wait until the last day of class to do all your homework, but that is when you have to have your homework in by. So again, refer to the Canvas modules, refer any questions to your instructor, and work from your syllabus, but that's an important distinction that the due date is the last day of class. Let's go to the quizzes and tests section. So now, as you can see, we're filtering it down again. We're changing what it looks like, and I'm going to go back to homework just so you can see that too. So now we have our chapter quizzes with due dates that are significantly different than the last day of class. Be very familiar with this. Pay attention to these due dates and deadlines. So it tells you exactly what the assignment is. It tells you how long you have to complete it. It tells you out of how many attempts are possible. And since this is actually in the past, it's a past due assignment. So really, really important. Pay attention to these things. These are actually past due, so I can't even click on them. This would be something where I could access because it's not due yet. So pay attention to the due dates. Be sure to stay on track of that. And now let's look really quickly back at homework just to see how it's different looking. So we have a due date, an assignment, but look at this. There's no time limit. There's no attempts, and there's no score with it. This is different because this is actually something that's open to you. Homework is meant to help you. It's meant to help to prepare you for the quizzes and tests that you'll be taking. So homework is there to help you. Yes, it counts toward your score, but it's so important to do before you expose yourself to your quizzes and tests. So there you are. So quizzes and tests do have time limits, due dates, but they also have, and it does depend on the course, sometimes multiple attempts. When that's the case, the information is provided in the MyLab product. So I now want to scroll down a little bit in this page and show you some things. This will allow you to take sample tests and quizzes to practice or build your study plan. Refer to your Canvas course regarding your study plan and what's asked of you by your instructor. But they're samples. They don't affect your grade. You can take 0 out of infinity times to practice the chapter quizzes and tests to prepare for the actual graded assignments. So as you can see, this instructor has populated it with tests and quizzes for the chapters that are being covered in this course. That's a great way of you checking your ability before you actually take the test. So let's recap. We're in Canvas. We see that we have homework to do in the MyLab product. What do? We come to the left course navigation, we click on it, that'll bring us into our MyLab product. It defaults to a show all screen, but if we want to do homework, we're going to filter down to that. And we're going to go ahead and jump into our homework. If we're taking a quiz or a test for practice, let's scroll down and take a sample. And if we're prepared to take our quiz or test for credit in one of our attempts, knowing that we have dedicated this time, that's where we would go. So I hope this helps with the getting started and starting to access it aspect of MyLabs. In our next video, I'm actually going to dive into the material a little bit so you can take a look at that.